the story, and it's nerve-wracking, to be honest. I mean, I think of all the screenings we'll ever attend, this will be the most nerve-wracking one. So we're very thankful how well it played.
Charlotte loves having you all here and loved having the 37 Babies being filmed here. I mean, I think sometimes Charlotte was so excited to see you. We have signs, and your crew would say, "Please step back. Please step back. Jenny's not going to kiss you." Right? But please hold on. And you did this amazing Toys R Us, and there isn't a Toys R Us on 74 anymore. How was that to build and design that? Because it was so authentic.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge the art department and the crowd because they finally had a chance to see the as well. We worked super hard on making Toys R Us a reality, and it almost seemed like a miracle because so many times it almost didn't work out. But we started from basically a shell of a defunct Toys R Us in Pineville, to those of you who know it. And we were just so lucky to have had the story actually happen in Charlotte and to have found one of the only defunct Toys R Us in the country. So yeah, we visited the original location, which is now a church, and we did a lot of research, and it was just a mega project. Our entire department sort of turned into a toy manufacturing facility, and we just had to buy toys, create them, create the graphics, bring in all of the shelving. It was like making a real store, especially because Derek loves having his actors interact with reality as much as we can make it, and so it was there for the actors to play with.
It was so authentic. Go ahead, Jeannie.
I think when people hear defunct Toys R Us, they think, oh, it was a toy store that was sort of out of business. I mean, we showed up at this Toys R Us, for those of you who have been there and driven by recently, there was a faded Toys R Us logo on the outside. There were some broken tiles, and then there was nothing. There was no floor. There was no electricity. There were no light fixtures. We replaced 2,000 light fixtures. I mean, there was nothing in that building. And Derek was adamant, we have to shoot in a Toys R Us. I mean, this was not a Toys R Us. I mean, the ghost of a Toys R Us lived in this Toys R Us.
That authenticity has been so important to you, Derek, since the jump. Derek and I met originally. You were auditioning people, and you made this huge point on authenticity, not just Pastor Ron, not just Lee, but so many people in the movie had their roles. You saw a lot of the journalists in Charlotte still are heard voices from the past. Why was that authenticity, you could have gone anywhere, probably for cheaper than Charlotte. Why was it so important to shoot it here?
I mean, this is where it happened. This is where the people were. This is, in doing my research, talking with Sergeant Steinreich, and just meeting so many of the, police force that interacted with Jeff, and this was the heart of the movie. And I felt like this is where the church was, and we were able to, we met D'Amico, who now runs that church, and we were able to go into that space and shoot in the space. I don't know, I believe in kind of chasing ghosts when I'm making something, and I don't know exactly, I'm just following my instincts, I just am curious, and I feel like the longer we spent here, the more people started to appear from the past who had experienced this story. And if anyone ever approached us, with anything about I just offered them a role in the film. Charles Cummings, who drove the truck that Jeff escaped under, I was interviewing him one day, just getting his information about what happened, and said goodbye to him, and he said, hey, one more thing, who's going to play me? And I said, well, who do you think should play you? And he says, I think I should play me. And I said, okay, it's you. Yeah, simple like that. So if I wasn't down
You obviously have talked to Jeffrey Manchester in prison and gotten to know the real Jeffrey Manchester. What part of his story resonated with you that you could talk to him and then see what we just saw play out in your mind and think, this is it. This is a full-fledged film.
Movies have unlimited potential to kind of surprise us, to make us laugh, to make us cry, and very serious films in my past, and when I heard this story about this guy who was this serious criminal but made certain choices like to live in a toy store, I thought, well, you know, if he was like living in the woods, then that's like John Rambo, and that this was like different. This would be totally different, and I wanted to kind of explore that tone. And you know, Jeff is a very complicated, contradictory character. He has this, you know, real kind of inner child that's very alive inside of him. He's very charming. He's like a very good storyteller in a lot of ways. I think Jeff loves movies, and I think when he was making all these terrible decisions in his life, I think he was imagining he was in a movie. And it was almost like he was writing a script for this crazy movie that was going to happen someday. And you know, and then Jeff is now in this max security prison, and you know, and he's doing his time, and you know, a lot of his relationships have been, you know, shattered, and some of them he's been able to keep up. And I just thought all those contradictions of his character would create an interesting person to put on the screen. You know, obviously, there's a lot of people that have, you know, challenges with money, you want to be better providers for their family. Not everyone goes to the extremes that Jeff does. I've always thought that, like, if Jeff wants to kill an ant, he uses a sledgehammer. He like way overdoes things, and he's paying the price for it, you know. So I just thought it would be interesting to show, that contradiction of character, and I thought it would make a good movie.
That's a great movie. Right, such a good movie. You talk about him like he's your friend, and you know him well. When was the last time you spoke with him, and has he seen it? Or will he?
So Jeff, I talked to him 3 days ago. He hasn't seen it yet. He's only seen promotions. He's only seen like pieces from the local news that have gone in. His mother recently passed away. He told me that their last conversation they had was they were laughing about the tagline on the poster, that based on actual events and terrible decisions. So he was very thankful that the movie gave him and his mom a good laugh together. He asked me, when he saw like some of the images on the poster, he said, "Hey, I have a question for you." He was like, that image of Channing in a pair of Heelys with his underwear, and he's wearing like a pool floaty, and he's got a teddy bear around his neck. He's like, "Where'd you get that idea?" And I was like, "Well, my production designer built this Toys R Us, and we had all these, you know, it was functional Toys R Us. There was like toys on all the shelves, and we were setting up a shop, and Channing Tatum came around the corner, and he looked like that. And so we pointed the camera at him, and we took and it made the poster. And he was like, "You know, Derek, I'm really happy to hear that." He said, "Because if you live in a toy store for 6 months, it has a way to connect you to your inner child, and I'm very thankful to hear that Channing got a chance to be connected to his."
So James, we were over there right before we all walked out, and you were saying people laughed when he's naked, and we laughed when there was like a robbery going on. Was our reaction as a crowd here in Charlotte what you expected?
I honestly didn't know what to expect. I mean, I think it's because, you know, I think you're hopeful because people obviously drive by the places we were shooting and no one in the story was so, you know, they had connection to the story. You think that people are going to like it, maybe, you know, even more than an audience that doesn't, but you just don't know. So, you know, I think it's rare in our, you know, job that we get to show a movie to an audience that's so close to a story. Not only, you know, what is it about, maybe a story that they, you know, knew about or heard about or participated in some way, shape, or form, just growing up in the same neighborhood, but actually to shoot in that same city. So I don't know what my expectations were.
Can I answer that just a little bit? So my wife makes comedies. She makes a lot of comedies, and I usually make tragedies. And you know, you see those comedy tragedy faces, the laughing and the smiling one. I was thinking how close the comedy and tragedy are. They're like flip sides of the same coin. If you slip on a banana peel and you fall on the ground, it's pain, it hurts, and you laugh at it. And I was thinking with Jeff's story in particular, that what we could do is flip that coin up in the air, and it could flip and spin between comedy and tragedy, and you would be watching both at the same time because they're so interconnected. Because Jeff's life is full of tragedy. And Jeff also lived in a way that he was fully, he did some terrible things, and we watch, Peter Dinklage get hit in the face with the dye pack. People laugh. It's in the same way that people laugh when you slip on a banana peel. It goes back to I think the pain of a clown. And one of the things I was thinking about Jeff and Channing, especially his performance in this movie, was it's a sad clown. You laugh at a clown's pain, and he caused all that pain. He caused a lot of pain in other people's lives too, and that's all in there. And he's living with that. But I think when I still talk to Jeff on the phone, he'll tell me, about how he still finds pleasure in a good meal. And I'll ask him, well, what did you have to eat today? And he said, a granola bar, and it tasted so good. And so I kind of wanted the movie to walk on that line. There's a whole history of also crime movies, Bonnie and Clyde or something, and there's a fascination with the criminal. And I think what we tried to do in this movie is show the criminal, you laugh at him, but you also feel the reverberation of all that happened with him.
It's such a good story. It's such a
Your
good plan, right?
quality to him, yes.
And well, I want to ask so much, Charlotte. I think so many of us in the audience that love the city and have lived here a long time are like, we know that street sign, or that's down Monroe Road. Here we are. What was the biggest difficulty in creating a Charlotte from 20 plus years ago in today's world?
What's interesting about period films is that it's hard to tell what details are going to maybe move the needle or feel a bit off, especially when you're not from the place. But I think that first of all, Derek's films have just a way of maybe feeling a bit nostalgic. I think that it's not just in the production design, it's in the cinematography, the stock that we use, the colors, and so I feel like the film already has a bit of a nostalgic look that helps maybe tone down some of the more modern stuff. And it was important for us to showcase, as much as we could, the commercial nature of suburbia, the sort of big box wasteland that I feel like is not just unique to Charlotte. So that's also, I think, maybe a more a point that you can connect with universally. And then I remember the moment when we found the original church that really grounded us in a different time, and that was Derek was really adamant about trying to find it. I think we looked at 30 churches.
There's a lot of churches out here.
So connecting with some of the original places and then finding these sort of timeless streets or more classic wasteland type landscape that I feel like take us back a little bit in time. And then as many of the interiors that we could control completely and make them make very, even in Lee's apartment, the feeling is a bit more like late 90s, early 2000s. And so it's in a lot of small details.
There's so many small details. Best behind the scenes, right? Sneak peek for all of us because we love that we know where all these scenes were shot and we drive by them all the time. Best day of shooting and most troubled day of shooting and why?
A lot of them were hard.
All of them
were hard.
They're all so hard.
So hard.
Jamie, find a good one in your memory.
It's funny when you make a movie, like a lot of things, when you're in it, it's so hard. It's like you're grinding. We're our days are so long. They start at 6, 7, 8 in the morning, and they go till 9, 10, 11, till 1, 2, 3. Sometimes all night. Sometimes you'll have a 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. Shoot. So in the moment, it's so hard, and it's. But after the fact, they kind of all are great in some way. Like you really you kind of forget. You know, it's so funny when you tell a story about a certain day, and then you'll remember like just how awful the day was. So I don't know.
I think Red Lobster was a really good day.
You know why?
Red Lobster?
No, because I wasn't there.
Oh, you were there. Red Lobster was a great day.
I
Red was
really
there.
think
It was amazing. Like Channing was out in the car and he came in to this great cast of local actors and real people from this situation, and he just got put in the hot seat. And it was great to see Channing sweat. It was great to see him put off his center. I have kind of an allergy with cool things. I don't really like cool. I don't know. I never really got along with cool kids. I kind of like the weirdos a little bit more. And so always I just wanted to and Channing can be cool, and I just wanted to put him out of his comfort zone. And I think on that day in the Red Lobster we did that. Anyway, Kimball, you had one?
I was thinking of the night where Chen crashed into the Zen can.
Yes.
And there was just, because Chen did so much of his own stunts, and it was really mesmerizing. And those were my favorite moments to be on set, because just to see all of these incredible things crashing most of the time, ruining our sets. It was really beautiful to see in real time.
It's one of the reasons we cast Channing was because his mastery of physical movement, and we thought that this movie needed to have a lot of slapstick in it, and he was able to deliver that. I will say, just since you brought up the tan, Imbal came up with two names for the tanning salon. The one that won was Zen Tan, but she had a second choice, which was Tanning Chatham.
That's pretty
I would
cool.
say that it was shot in fireworks. I liked all the Toys R Us days, but it was cool to shoot the fireworks.
The sky show.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a usually I think harder job than people think, but there's still a lot of kind of really just cool fun moments when you're trying to figure out. And a lot of Matt today, a lot of stuff has done by special effects, but Derek really doesn't love special effects. And I'll never forget, we were like, hey, well, how are you doing the fireworks? Well, we're hiring a company, they're coming and they're going to go all throughout the mall and they're going to set off fireworks. And it's sort of like we're standing on top of the Toys R Us, and it's like, okay, when we're shooting on film, and it's like, got walkies, it's like the fireworks. You just shoot, it's really cool. It's really fun. It's very, some of these parts of the job are very kind of just wow, this is cool.
I don't know if you all know this, but you shooting the Roofman in Charlotte made things so authentic in so many scenes repeatedly, because you could have found a different Toys R Us standing somewhere else and said it was Charlotte, but it wasn't. It was in Pineville. It was in our area. Not only did it bring visitors here, CRVA, Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority, says it has helped our economy hugely, but it brought visitors here to tour what you made at Toys R Us, even though it wasn't the authentic Toys R Us. You brought people into Charlotte. We were so excited to have you here. When you go back to your worlds and Hollywood and LA and all these places, and you have more movies and more projects and big stars and large red carpets, what do you end up saying about Charlotte, honestly, and how it was filming there?
I mean, it was a dream. It was the only place to make this movie. I mean, there was opportunities. I had, a lot of movies go overseas now because the dollar just goes that much further, so there was conversations of going to South Africa or Bulgaria to make the movie.
To make this and something?
Yeah. Because you can do everything yourself. But my point was where's the people? Where are we gonna find the people? And so that was never a choice not to shoot here. And I remember on the very first day we were scouting here, and while you were with me, we were looking for the McDonald's location, because to set this movie in 2004, all fast food restaurants now have changed, right? Paul, can you describe the architecture of a modern fast food restaurant?
It's basically a bland box now, and McDonald's have given up their incredible red roof, or
Green roof.
green roof. So, you know, it seems so easy. You think you have this memory of a McDonald's. You're like, obviously it exists, and they're no longer with us.
Yeah, back in the day, Kentucky Fried Chicken had a certain route, it was a certain building, and a McDonald's and a Burger King were certain buildings. So we were searching, we found an old Kentucky Fried Chicken that now had become, No, I know we shot the Burger King, but we were looking at a former Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the lady who owned the place, she let us in her kitchen, like we met her, and within 5 minutes, we were like family, we felt like family. We were just welcomed in, and that kind of hospitality of this place, I realized we couldn't get that anywhere else. We were talking, there was the tax credit in New Jersey is more lucrative than here. And there was a lot of talk, and I live in Brooklyn, so I could have stayed at home and gone, you know, driven to Jersey every day. But it was the people. It was that lady in that restaurant who we never saw again, but she welcomed us. And I started to realize about Jeff Manchester, you know, the community embraced him. And it took a special type of community to welcome this person, this stranger, into their worlds. And then at the end of the day, I was talking about the grace that Ron spoke